Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I thought I would cover for you guys some of the most common debunked fitness myths in terms of nutrition. But a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you're not subscribed or following, please do so. And if you'll be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, I would appreciate it so much. Thank you. Let's get over to the topic. I'm not going to create some crazy, wacky list where I make you wait 5 minutes to hear it. I'm just going to break down what have been some of the most extremely pervasive but debunked myths, in terms of fitness. Number one, that eating more frequent meals speeds up your metabolism, right? Number two, that we have to have protein immediately post-workout or we're wasting our gains. Number three, it's going to be that we have to have at least a gram of protein per pound of body weight to maximize muscle growth or to gain muscle. Number four, that humans store significant amounts of carbohydrates as body fat, right? These are all completely debunked myths. And then we can add to it protein, that you can't absorb or use more than 30 grams of protein per sitting. All five of these are false. All five of these are false. And there's no agenda with any of this on my part. Like, I'm not selling you a product. I'm just telling you this stuff has all been debunked with modern research, modern measurement equipment. All right. Where were we with this? So I'll go down the list with it. It turns out meal frequency doesn't affect metabolic rate. Usually it's pointed out that yes, you have a higher thermic effect. You get an immediate thermic effect from meals, but guess what? That happens no matter when you eat it. So even if you were to do something extreme, and no, I don't support one meal a day, even if you did that, you would get the same thermic effect that if you ate 6 meals. Okay, none of that matters. A lot of that, though, was based upon also protein timing. Of, hey, we need these smaller servings of protein. So then that also kind of fueled each other as a myth. So that became a pervasive myth. So I'll jump into that one, even though it's pretty far near the end. The whole absorbing 30 grams of protein for muscle growth, or your body can only absorb it, created by supplement industries purely to sell more protein powders. Okay, and this is where there's a synergy of myths. So there was already the pervasive myth that we need, like 5 or 6 meals a day would speed up metabolism. Okay, the next one that the supplement companies created so they could sell you protein to eat between meals, because a lot of times it was, people can only get in, 3 meals a day, 4 meals a day, and if we can't absorb more than 30 grams of protein, then we need these protein shakes between meals for extra absorption. And again, it falls back into that, hey, we need a certain amount of protein. So start doing the math on that, guys. Hey, you need a gram of protein per pound of body weight. You figure the average guy who works out is going to be under 200 pounds usually, maybe 180. Before long, hey, 6 meals a day. You need the 30 grams. You can't get over that, so you see where we're going? This fits really, really nicely for selling protein shakes. And I'm not against protein shakes. I use them myself. I have them on my own Amazon wish list. I use protein shakes sometimes. But the thing is, this is being done to market them. So these are myths that all fed into each other very effectively. Well, it turns out when it's been studied, there's no metabolic benefit. In fact, plenty of people have lost weight successfully with intermittent fasting because of better dietary control. In some cases, impossible nutrient partitioning. So the pendulum kind of swung both ways, but also people get this idea that fasting can automatically create more fat loss, and that's not necessarily true either. Meal timing, it really is about personal preference, energy, appetite, in terms of how many meals a day you need. But as far as the protein absorption, again, complete myth, not based on science, it was used to sell protein supplements in between meals. Reality, it's been debunked. We've actually found it's not just absorption. Obviously, there's a cap to which you can absorb your GI tract. It's going to be, depending upon the protein type, only so much per hour, but you'll still be absorbing it 24 hours after you ate it. Some proteins, you're only going to be able to get 10 grams of them per hour. So yeah, if you ate 300 grams in a day, you're not going to get necessarily all of it. But some of them that absorb more readily, it could be 20, grams in an hour. in your GI tract. But it's not about timing. It's going to sit in there anyways. And they tested this actually a couple years back, where they're like, let's measure full following muscle protein synthesis post-workout, right? So they gave them 30 grams of protein. Guess what happened? They had a certain amount of muscle protein synthesis. When they gave them 100 all in one sitting, it didn't spike higher. So it's like, oh, no, except that it lasted many hours longer. So in other words, the muscle protein synthesis that you got from a briefer spike from the 30 grams, it peaked all the way up to that same level, and it stayed for hours. And when you plotted out the average, it was over 3 times. It maintained the peak, elevated for something like 6 hours or 8 hours or whatever it was that you had, whatever, for an hour or two. I don't have the chart in front of me, but it ended up being the muscle protein synthesis was identical per gram, even from one big feeding. And then if you were to plot it out and spread that 30 grams out, every 2 hours, it would be an almost identical muscle protein synthesis curve. Same thing, we come over to the idea that we need 1 grams of protein per pound of body weight. It's been debunked. We need a little less. And we're talking maximum. What's been pretty much found right around 0.8 grams per pound of body weight is where there seems to be no benefit. It just turns into glucose at that point. It just becomes carbohydrate. You're just converting it at that point. There's no muscle growth has been found ever by adding more protein beyond that, for the most part, even in bodybuilders, Olympic lifters, football players, like American football players. It's been studied pretty heavily because there's a lot of money in these real sports. They need them to maximize this. So there's actual money in finding out if this is true, and it's just not been true. And in fact, it turns out muscle growth occurs pretty decently as low as 0.1 gram per kilo of body weight. So if you weigh 220 pounds, as long as you're getting over 100 grams, you're probably going to have no trouble gaining muscle. But if you also look at those charts where it's optimal, you might need closer to 140, 150, right? But you don't need 220 for that. As far as carbohydrates, this has been studied a lot more closely in recent years. And what they found with carbon isotope testing, carbohydrates are not stored that much as body fat in humans, and they're never stored under your skin. And that's what we need to be clear on. The data shows that you do not gain any subcutaneous fat from carbohydrate storing as de novo lipogenesis. When it's studied, it's not a single gram stores under your skin, even in excess. It's fairly small amounts, and it's all in your liver and around your organs. Now, conversely, if you overeat carbohydrates, then you'll just store the extra fat that you eat. So almost all the fat on your body, like 99% of the fat on your body, came from fat that you ate. And it doesn't matter how you got there. If you overeat calories, you're going to store dietary fat. All right, we're done.